Fantastic. Thank you. I hear the recording is in progress. So that means that our next session, which is the last session of today, I cannot believe, as Julia mentioned, I echo, it is surprising how quickly the day goes by when you're having fantastic conversations with a wonderful community of people joining us. So welcome to the Industry Leadership and Pilot Project session. This will be the last session for today, and then of course we will reconvene again tomorrow for another few sessions, and then we'll wrap the conference. I'm Sofika Kosteniuk, Managing Director at Aquatic Life Institute, and I'll be hosting this fantastic session. Some housekeeping reminders for our attendees, the audience, you are all muted upon entry with your cameras off. So if you have any questions, please post them to the Q&A box, and we'll answer them as best as possible towards the end of the session. Each session is being recorded, and we will share the recordings following the conference for distribution and review and reference by yourselves and others. Please use those resources. We definitely have a zero tolerance policy for harassment and discrimination of any kind, and we expect respectful and productive discussions today and tomorrow. And always, let's just say. And lastly, this session is set for 75 minutes in duration. We have 4 speakers who will be sharing their expertise and insights with us, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions and answers. I'll just kick off with introducing our panelists. So we have René Benguerel, who is the founder and managing director of Blueyou. We have Teresa Fernandez, Corporate Social Responsibility and Sustainability Senior Manager for Seafood and Value Add at Hilton Seafood. We have Sam Bowman, Aquaculture Consultant with ACE Aquatec. And last but not least, we have Duncan Sije. And Duncan, I deeply apologize if I mispronounced your name, please correct me. He is a consultant in fisheries and aquaculture agribusiness value chains. Why don't I hand it over to René if you're ready for your presentation?
Yes, thanks, Sofika. Can you hear me well?
Yep, all is coming through very clearly.
Okay, very nice. So I'll try to share my screen. Thanks for the introduction. So, yes, I'm happy to be here and talk a little bit about Blueyou and our journey with animal welfare around sustainable seafood. Is the screen on?
The screen is on, René, and it is full screen. So it looks
nice.
Great on my end. Thank you.
Perfect. So yes, let me talk in the first part a little bit about Blueyou, that you get the background and see where we are coming from, and then we can dive deeper specifically into the animal welfare topic. So Blueyou is a seafood company that has been always fully dedicated to sustainability. So we are working on seafood harvesting systems that are in balance with nature, but also in balance with people and community. So it has always been about the environmental aspect, but of equal importance, the social and the community aspect. We are working worldwide. I think the special sauce, if you will, with Blueyou is that roughly 50% of our staff is actually scientific technical staff. So we have quite a big team, roughly 25 people, which are marine biologists, ecologists, aquaculture specialists, and social community specialists. So we employ quite a large workforce that is working with fisheries and farms on all the improvement aspects, which not only include the environmental and social component, but also the quality, the traceability, food safety, and everything that is relevant to provide healthy, transparent, and sustainable seafood choices to our clients. So we are 20 years into the business now, basically this year, and we really look at seafood as kind of creating seafood with a purpose. So for us and our clients, it's important that we basically address all relevant issues when it comes to seafood. And increasingly, this also means we also need to address the animal welfare component. For those that don't know Blueyou, I mean, we are active in roughly 12 to 14 producer countries, mostly in Southeast Asia, Asia, and Latin America. This is where we are running our fisheries and aquaculture programs with producers. And we are selling products actively into retail and HoReCa markets in Canada, US, Europe, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, Philippines, and Australia. So a little bit everywhere, but very specifically on the higher quality, higher sustainability level. And our current kind of impact policy landscape is subject to a large revision. As I said, we are now 20 years into the business, and we had quite strict sustainability policies from the beginning. But now we are kind of reshaping our entire impact landscape, and we are adding additional elements to the sourcing and impact policies. One element is dealing with the planetary boundary. So we are including the planetary boundary concept into all our environmental sourcing criteria. So this goes way beyond just MSC, ASC organic. Like, we're not looking only at these certification schemes, but we're addressing, you know, carbon footprint, climate change, planetary boundaries, and so on. A second important aspect, as I said, is the social, the community inclusiveness, and the fair trade angle. I think roughly 80% of our products are harvested by small-scale producers, like small-scale fisheries and artisanal farmers. And the animal welfare component is increasingly important. So we are going to include animal welfare standards into our sourcing policies by early next year. I will dive deeper into this. And also from a company point of view, we are currently undertaking B Corp certification as a tool and as a helpful process for us to continuously improve our performance in terms of environment and society on a more holistic way, including also the whole carbon footprinting and climate change mitigation aspect. So you see, it's basically kind of a holistic impact approach. One example of our work, just that you see how we are working. So for example, one product of Blueyou is Selva shrimp. This is a specific organic shrimp farming program, which we have been initiating 20 years ago. So here we are farming black tiger shrimp with small-scale communities in Vietnam, actually in restored mangrove forests in an organic way. So no feed, no fertilizers, no chemicals, no antibiotics. And the whole system is very nature-based. So the animal-friendly husbandry is included from its initiation, you know, so these shrimp are raised in their natural habitat. And also from the beginning, we have been working with hatcheries that are not, you know, applying the eye stalk ablation, as our hatcheries are organic certified. So this has been actually part of early stage research development in these hatcheries. Actually 25 years ago, when we had to kind of convert these hatcheries into technologies without using eye stalk ablation. So just to say that we are not, animal welfare is nothing new to us, but we so far included it mostly in our aquaculture program. So now talking about the animal welfare specifically, so far, as I said, we did not have a formalized animal welfare policy. This is, however, going to change now. I'm currently structuring our first version of a policy, which is going to be implemented by early next year. Basically, for us, it has always been much easier logically kind of to address animal welfare in the aquaculture sector, as we already have heard, where there's much less bottlenecks and resistance. And of course, it's actually also easier to address. And in the wild capture fishery sector, so far, we actually did nothing, basically, honestly. I mean, that was kind of a black box for us. And so we are going to address this now over the next, I guess, 10 to 20 years. Our new policy will deal with both farmed and wild-caught origins. And we see the overall purpose of our policy kind of in a threefold dimension. First, we want to create awareness for the importance of animal welfare with our clients, with our supporters, with our investors, but most importantly, of course, with all our supply partners, with the fishermen, the farmers, and the seafood companies. Then we want to adopt and implement improved practices whenever feasible and possible. And what this means, I can tell you next. It must be realistic and also kind of workable for small-scale farmers and fishermen. And also we want to stimulate and support further research and development in areas where there are no solutions yet. So that's the idea. And yeah, so basically, specifically, what I want to share with this panel is we also see some critical kind of shortcomings or need for solutions, specifically in our world, which is not the world of industrial farming or industrial fishing, but on the other spectrum, like the low impact artisanal small scale fisheries and traditional farming origins. So we are talking about roughly 18,000 small-scale producers which are supplying seafood to our brand. So these are actually mostly in countries of the global south. It's development countries which are still facing a lot of other challenges. And what we see is that in not all these scenarios, for example, improved stunning practices by electrostunning, this may work perfectly on a large industrial fishing vessel or on an industrial shrimp farm. That's absolutely no problem. But in our case, where farmers and fishermen catch 4 to 5 kilograms of shrimp every day, not more, of course, we cannot install electrostunners for $45,000. So, for example, these things are not feasible, and there we need to invest into research development. So we need solutions that are adapted to the local needs and also adapted to the local realities. So I think that is something that is our concern, because we believe that these small-scale producers, they offer a value to the seafood industry. They have a lot of benefits, not only socially, but also often they have a more low-impact method of farming and harvesting. And we believe we need to make sure that they are not excluded from the animal welfare topic, but most importantly also that they are not excluded from the market by standards of retailers. Just to show you like what we are talking about. So, for example, here is the list of our key current programs with wild capture fisheries. So these are all small-scale community-based fisheries. As you see, there's roughly 16,000 fishing vessels, producers actively involved. So they all have a very selective, low-impact catch method, meaning they don't harm the seafloor. There's no bycatch. It's a very selective. These are very selective fisheries. But actually, in all of these fisheries, currently, there's no stunning implemented. So these fish or shrimp are simply kind of dying by, slowly dying by losing oxygen or not being able to breathe anymore. which is definitely not a nice thing, but there we are interested in improving the situation and look for, realistic ideas, but also we are ready to committed to invest into pilot projects. For example, now we are discussing with Ali a first pilot program in the Maldives, where we are running a pond line fair trade tuna fishery program. And the idea is there to equip one of the vessels with an electrostunning technology to see if, for example, such technology would be applicable in the scenario of this coastal traditional tuna fishery. So I would say we are just at the very beginning of this journey, but we are committed to actually go this way together with Ali and other partners. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion and most importantly to learn, because we are kind of beginners in this topic. So that's it from my side. Thanks.
Thank you so much, René. And I think that it's the perfect kickoff to this panel. So I just wanted to underscore why we at Aquatic Life Institute feel that it's always important to broaden the tent, to invite as many stakeholders as possible into the conversation around aquatic animal welfare and into positions where people feel empowered and educated to make continuous improvement. We all need to see continuous improvement. So hearing that for the first time ever, Blueyou is going to be rolling out an animal welfare policy is incredibly positive. It's incredibly hopeful. And I think that it's going to help sort of catalyze change throughout other parts of the industry. Sometimes in the animal welfare and animal protection movement, it's a lot easier to view the world in sort of black and white scenarios. But realistically, when we need to create that change at scale, we need to bring, again, everyone into the tent and provide the tools and support to allow the change to occur in areas where we don't necessarily hold influence or knowledge. So thank you for putting yourself out there. We are very enthusiastic about continuing our discussions with yourself and Blueyou and seeing and celebrating the rollout of your first animal welfare policy. With that, maybe, yeah. I'll hand it over to Teresa. If you're ready to go, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, hopefully you can see it all in slide mode now. So I'm Teresa Fernandez. I'm CSR Sustainability Senior Manager at Hilton Foods. So I'm going to give you first an overview of who we are and where we sit in the supply chain. So Hilton Foods is an international multi-protein business. We have 24 processing sites across the globe, mainly based around Europe, but we do also have processing sites in Australia and New Zealand, and we are in the process of building one in Canada. And we are present across 19 different markets. Since the beginning of Hilton Foods, we've historically been a meat processing specialist, so we do not own farms or fishing vessels. And since 2017, the group diversified into new proteins, and that's where the seafood business started from the group. That was acquiring Sije in the UK, and then most recently Bowman in the Netherlands, those which are the two main seafood businesses at the moment. Hilton's business model is to form partnership with customers in the locations where we are, and that would be, for example, retailers in the UK, more than anything else. So my role within Hilton is to the implementation of the Sustainable Protein Plan. Is making sure that we don't stop in having policies we go beyond that and go into the supply chain to make the necessary changes, whatever they might be, to make sure that we have a sustainable, sourcing strategy. So our work look into 3 pillars: people, product, and planet. And that's for our individual sites and factories, but also to our supply chain. Some of the more important work in the supply chain than actually what we do. So just to give a few kind of examples of those key pillars, in people particularly, we're working for a long time now in protecting human rights in our supply chain. So we do go to our supplier farmers and processing sites and we audit them. And it's a combination between our internal audit and understanding of their business, and also having third-party audits or more specialist specific in that human rights topic. In terms of product, we're looking quite hard on the efficiency of our factories, and we have goals, for example, in reducing food waste, and that could be, for example, reducing of butter in fish cakes, as an example, working in circular packaging. And because we are multi-protein, we do vegan and vegetarian, it's our duty also to make sure that we have nutritional proteins across all our sites. And on planet, as has been touched, a few times by René, just earlier on, we are working also in reducing emissions, carbon emissions in our supply chain. And we have signed to the science-based target and committed to net zero by 2050. And that involves working with our supply chain, which it becomes a lot more important when we talk about animal well-being, because there are more actions that we need their support, and it's more collaborative effort, because it's been mentioned before, some of the scientists or scientific report is not yet being done, and we understand that it's our duty to make sure that we are up to speed into knowledge. So in terms of the animal well-being side of things, we are engaged with a number of organizations, and that goes from certifications like the ASC or the Global Gap, more NGO focus like the WWA for crustacean compassion that we before, compassion and world farming, to make sure that we are up to date with all the information. Where do these organizations see issues, and where we can have open dialogues, where we find some challenges in our supply chain. So we have the partnership, and to do that and that engagement, we need to make sure that we have the same partnership with our suppliers. We don't purchase from just off the shelf. We need to make sure that our suppliers are good people that we can rely on, because all these ambitions, particularly in animal welfare, are very costly and not yet included in many legislation. So I just wanted to put an example of what we've done more recently, and that's been the introduction of electric stunner into our prawn supply chain, and that is our Litopenaeus wanamei, or white leg shrimp, that we source from Southeast Asia. So for those that might not be too aware of how the system works, what we're currently using is a dry electric stunner, where the prawn shrimp, depending on where you are pumped from the pond and then goes through a hopper directly to the electric stunner, and within 2 seconds, the prawns are effectively stunned. And after that, they goes into ice, but for food safety reasons that from the traditional thermal stunning method. These work that we did made us win an award in 2021 by Compassion in World Farming, and that was on the Best Innovation Award, just to introduce in commercial facilities the use of electric stunner. I think that I feel that when I've been hearing the conversation today, you've been mentioning how we can incorporate this animal welfare into the SDGs, and I think that that's an important factor. We need to put that, I would like to put that into context and what it means. animal welfare, prawn animal welfare is still a relatively new topic for many people. So talking just exclusively about animal welfare in the global south is not enough. We need to make sure that there is additional benefit, and then we communicate effectively those additional benefits that, you know, bring the introduction to better practices. Just to be transparent and clear in where the benefits were for us in the introduction of electrical stunner. Traditionally, stunning or the harvest process in prawns has been done through basket. You know, the staff on the side would put the harvest on the prawn or whatever animal might be in a basket, and then they would bring it up to the shore, and then they will be put into a thermal stunner. With the introduction of the electrical stunning to our side, we now needed a pump. That meant that the shrimp were only transferred within seconds from their pond to the normal habitat into the electrical stunner. So it was a reduction in the transport times for the fish. You know, within 5 seconds, the prawns, were stunned. There was also a real benefit for the farmer, particularly because it was very quickly they realized that they didn't need that many staff to be working around the harvest. So it was a direct cost reduction. They didn't need that many people. And also they could harvest a lot more prawns in the same amount of time. So for the processing side perspective, as these prawns are processed on the day, they saw a real benefit. You know, they could keep the factory worker, you know, working for longer. And it was a more, you know, in a more consistent manner, they were managed to get that raw material quite easily in larger volumes that in the past was a bit more difficult. So those are some of the benefits that we saw of the introduction of electrical stunners in prawns, and that's in our main supply chain. We do also, you know, are sourcing monodon black tigers from Vietnam, where I completely agree with René that the option of the electrical stunner doesn't seem to fit that process at the moment. But with that, we're working in stronger control of the thermal stunning while we figured out what's the option for those animals. I'll just, you know, I put there that in the UK, lobsters, octopus and crabs were included in the animal welfare bill, just to touch on it as it's been, you know, covered in previous presentations. But within Hilton Foods, we've worked about animal welfare for a long time, and in seafood particularly, as one of our key kind of areas. I think that was interesting for us to know, or for you to know also, that 100% of the lobsters and crabs that we have in our supply chain are electrically stunned. We're not doing any live boil or any of the sort. And 100% of our sea bass and sea bream in our supply chain, it goes also through electric stunner. That was introduced previously, and we took the learnings from the use of electric stunner on vessels in Turkey to take it to our prawn, you know, supply chain. So 100% of our supply of fed fish is previously stunned, and that covers percussive and electric stunner for salmon, and electric stunning for the rest of the fin fish species that we touch on. So what's next for us? There is increasing request by investors and by the normal, you know, usual customers, us, to understand a bit more of how the supply chain works and how transparency the supply chain works. So we use a system called Foods Connected to kind of to manage our supply chain. So it has from food safety audit to ethical sourcing audits. But what we've done over the past couple of years is introducing also animal welfare outcome measures, and we request that on a routine basis, and it covers things like antibiotic usage, stocking density, standing efficiency, crowding primarily ahead of harvest, but also if there is any treatment needed, health status, and that would be, for example, the use of vaccination or the prevalence of different diseases, and obviously and importantly, survival. And that kind of aids making us realize in a more consistent manner where we need to act and where we need to do it quickly. Just kind of to discuss stocking with regards to stocking density, we look into stage specific. So we look into hatchery, nursery, if it's at a different stage or a different location, and final grow out. So we have the different stages where we can also include it in these outcome measures. So it's more an informed decision into it. So yes, with that, I'll finish my presentation, and that was our whistle stop into what we're doing in Hilton Foods in seafood animal welfare.
Thank you, Teresa. Thanks for sharing all of that specific information with us. It's really fascinating for me always to see kind of the breadth of large corporations and where you have the power and ability to sort of influence. I totally uphold that corporations very often precede legislation. So that's something really important for all of us in the movement and others that are concerned about these issues to be aware of, is that corporations often have the ability to move faster and more specifically than legislation and policy reform. And then policy will often follow when they see that there's proof of possibility. So thank you for your leading efforts. It's really inspiring. And I look forward to the questions that the audience will be asking about your work. We have two more speakers with us. And so I'm going to hand it over to Sam Bowman now.
Thanks, Safika. I'll share my screen here. Is that coming through okay?
That looks great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I've been involved in the aquaculture industry, well, for my entire career, pretty much 37 years, always focused on fish production efficiencies and fish quality and sustainability. But it wasn't until I met the folks at Ace Aquatec 5 years ago that it really brought into focus, meeting with the animal welfare scientists that are part of the team at Ace Aquatec, brought into focus that fish welfare was a really important facet of aquaculture that Ace Aquatec was doing a lot of work with, and that caught my attention. So I since then been assisting with the company's business development in the Americas as their regional manager. Ace is an aquaculture technology company and focuses on operating solutions for its customers that are efficient, ethical, and sustainable. It started with acoustic startle response, predator deterrence that are very low frequency and not affecting cetaceans. Again, animal welfare perspective on that product, but also to protect the salmon in the pens from predation by seals and sea lions. The core product for the company currently is its humane in-water electric stunners, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. And more recently, the company launched a biomass camera to the aquaculture industry, which is new artificial intelligence, digital technology for the aquaculture industry. Where Ace Aquatec operates, headquartered in the UK, with offices in Norway, Chile, distributors in Australia and Canada and Greece. Company's won a few awards, Innovation Award in the UK for its acoustic startle response predator deterrence, the Innovation Award at Aquanor for the in-water electric stunning technology. This was the first time a non-Norwegian company had won the Innovation Award, and a Queen's Award for Enterprise for consistent success in technology innovation. What I think the industry is starting to understand is that high fish welfare means more profitable aquaculture. So it can really deliver benefits to the bottom line as well as to the fish that aquaculturists are growing for quality food. And this is a study done in 2021 called Just Economics, and they determined that the cost of poor fish welfare is over $770 million per year. And they based that on consumer research that determined that Europeans would pay more for farmed salmon with higher welfare standards. And when applied to the consumption of salmon in Europe and Canada over a 6-year period, that results in a lost value of $4.6 billion. So there's a lot of opportunity to bring those fish welfare benefits to the bottom line in the industry. So why care about humane slaughter and in-water electric stunning? Well, consumers are demanding better animal welfare standards. Retailers are pressuring suppliers to meet consumer animal welfare expectations. Are regulatory changes for more humane slaughter. In-water electric stunning does also improve the harvest efficiency, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, and can differentiate from competitors on animal welfare and flesh quality, and that's those are other important drivers that we're seeing with our aquaculture customers that are adopting this technology. There's pressure from governments, not just consumers, but retailers and regulators are expecting high animal welfare standards from all farmers, not just during production, but also the time of slaughter, and fish are certainly no exception. Around the world, countries have introduced legislation to protect fish welfare at slaughter, according to guidelines established by the Humane Slaughter Association in the UK. In North America, NOAA is focusing its debate about stunning methods to reduce fish suffering. And in Scotland's salmonid farming sector, the humane stunning procedures have been adopted as part of the harvesting process and are independently audited by animal welfare and product quality schemes. So it's very much institutionalized in the salmon aquaculture industry, in particular in Scotland. Of course, there's pressure from consumers. In the UK, again, the issue of humane seafood has really taken hold, and supermarket chains are listening to their consumers. Companies like Tesco, Waitrose, Marks and Spencer, and others have created their own policies on the humane treatment of farmed fish and in some cases wild-caught seafood. Reduced fish suffering is now the focus of the debate about stunning methods, and retailers are championing the move towards better fish farming practices. Current thinking on the subject among retailers can be summed up by Tesco's aquaculture manager, who says that when it comes to stunning fish, there's no wiggle room because fish are either stunned rightly or wrongly. And retailers are getting this message now very strongly. Tesco, along with Waitrose, is part of a consortium sponsored by the Humane Slaughter Association and led by Ace Aquatec, where we're developing, testing, and validating methods to humanely stun fish. So the in-water electric stunner here's a one example. They come in many configurations. I'll show you a few photos, but the fish are generally pumped into the stun tube, go over a partial dewatering box, and then enter into the stunning tube, where there are electrodes that create an electric field in the water, which humanely renders the fish unconscious in less than 1 second. And that's the standard set by the Humane Slaughter Association and adopted by other groups around the world. And then once the fish exit the stun tube, the electric field, where they're held for, depending on the species, 20 to 30 seconds, they'll exit to a dewatering system and onto a bleeding table, or directly to ice, where they will be asphyxiated while they're still unconscious. So, feeling no pain, whether they're bled or allowed to asphyxiate in ice. The alternatives, and over 7 years, I've seen them all, can really cause unnecessary fish stress and suffering. I got started in this industry in the salmon farming production, and we would harvest fish, haul them live to the processing plant, and put them in these CO2 chill tanks, which was very inhumane. A lot of fish stress, and that practice is banned now in the EU. There's still a lot of aquaculture where fish are pumped or brailed into ice alive. They're suffocating over a long period of time. It's very inhumane, very stressful. That practice will be banned in Canada by January of 2025. The dry electric stunning that was mentioned earlier requires dewatering, which stresses the fish, can be inconsistent in its stunning, and flesh damage is quite common. And it's gotten to a point where certification bodies are no longer endorsing dry electric stunning. Percussive stunning, which replaced CO2 chill tanks 20 years ago in the salmon farming industry in Canada, it's still very stressful, although it's more humane, because the fish are dewatered. They don't like that. That is a stressful operation for them. There's quite variable results with this. Percussive stunning and flesh bruising is quite common. I'll show you on the left side here is percussive stunning at Scottish Sea Farms before they installed the in-water electric stunner, which is in the right panel. So you can see, those fish are dewatered on the left-hand side. They don't like that. They're thrashing around looking for water, and it's obviously very stressful. Also difficult for the workers handling those slimy active fish. On the right-hand side, those fish are gone through the stun tube in about 20 seconds. They're completely unconscious, still alive, and they'll be bled out while they're unconscious. So very smooth and low stress situation. These systems can be installed in various ways and facilities. Here's a installation in a processing plant. Here's another one on a harvest vessel. This one's in Denmark, with trout. There's another one on a harvest barge for king salmon in New Zealand. Another example of one in a RAS facility for steelhead trout and salmon in Switzerland. So what happens when we put animal welfare first? Well, you get quality benefits that lower stress and minimal handling does improve fish welfare, flesh quality, and shelf life. the reliability of stunning 100% of the fish unconscious in 1 second. There's no mishits. Every fish is rendered unconscious, and no moving parts in this system. It's a very efficient, high throughput with gentle fish handling, does increase harvest capacity, and it's entirely safe, zero electrocution risk. And it does, as you saw in that video, eliminates the thrashing of fish and improves workplace safety. So, it's very scientifically based. EEG testing was done in the lab and with customers, with scientists at the University of Bristol, and the results were shared with the big welfare groups and retailers. There's no compromise on quality. X-rays have been done to check for spine damage and flesh texture, analyzed professionally, plus testimonials received from the market on the improved quality of the product. I mentioned increased productivity. Scottish Sea Farms is an example, doubled their throughput from 20 tons per hour using percussive stunning to 40 tons per hour using in-water electric stunning. And improved end product quality. We have a customer selling into the sushi market, and they're able to increase their price because of the flesh quality improvements using the in-water system. Just a snapshot on the trout farming industry in Canada. It's a small industry, about 10,000 tons. 60% of the production is in Ontario, and the majority of trout are grown in freshwater cages. The majority of trout are slaughtered inhumanely currently. As I mentioned, live fish pumped directly into ice and asphyxiated slowly. But there is a new code of practice for farm salmonids, which is coming into effect January 1st, 2025 in Canada. And that will ban the practice of asphyxiating fish in ice. So one company in Ontario is already leading the way, adopting best practices for fish welfare, and just want to give you a little focus on case study on them. That's Cedar Crest Trout Farm. They adopted the in-water electric stunning system a year ago. On the left-hand side, you can see the power unit and the electronic controls. And on the right is the trout stun design hooked into their pump that's drawing fish from their cages in Lake Huron, one of the Great Lakes. So they've been in business only for the last 7 years, growing rainbow trout, medium-sized company, 1,000 tons per year. Their previous slaughtering method was asphyxiation in ice, and they now have achieved their animal welfare certification with the in-water electric center installed. That's through BAP, and they've seen 20 to 25% improvement in their harvest efficiency, and are realizing the benefits in the industry and in the marketplace with their humane slaughtering practices now and a better product quality. So I'm hoping this video is going to work here and that you'll be able to hear this. Does that sound coming through okay?
From Cedar Crest Trout Farm. I'm a second-generation fish farmer. My dad started fish farming in 1969. We started Cedar Crest Trout Farm officially in 1995. Over the years, we've grown to become 6 different farms, one of which is in this beautiful place here on Manitoulin Island. Last year, we were invited to participate in this facility. This facility had been started in 2016 as a pilot between John O Foods and Sheshagowaning First Nations. We came on board to bring our expertise about fish. We raise primarily rainbow trout. We also raise Arctic char and coho salmon. We have a staff of 25 to 30 different people across our 6 sites, doing everything from breeding, hatchery rearing, production, processing, and delivery. Our biggest reason for getting involved with ACE Aquatec was the welfare perspective. We really struggle with being responsible for their death in a humane and kind way. So together with ACE, we were able to develop the system that we now have so that the fish are coming through straight out of the pump, being dewatered, going through the stunner and into totes. We wanted something that we could fully adopt into a system that we were already using. ACE was able to provide that. Now the fish are dewatered for a period of about 3 seconds, added back into the water while they're being humanely harvested, and then the water is decanted off at the end. So we were able to achieve the fact that these animals literally were without water for less than 5 seconds, which was a big goal for us. When we talk about the stunner, I have been nothing but absolutely impressed. We have already successfully harvested over 300,000 pounds this season, and the fish are immaculate and gorgeous, and we are over the moon excited. So now we have this beautiful product, which we can stand behind. Not only is it approved by NFACC, but it's also approved under BAP, which is our third-party certification. And we know that we're doing the best that we possibly can to take care of these animals and the environment. And all along, we take great care. So we wanted to offer that and bring that to the table when it came to being the first ones to use this kind of technology here in Ontario and Canada. I would absolutely recommend the ACE Aquatec system. It shows complete versatility for many different applications, many different species. It doesn't cease to amaze me at how easy we've been able to incorporate it into our cycles.
And just finally, this in-water electric stunning system has been adopted around the world for a variety of different species: salmon, trout, more recently yellowtail, sea bass and sea bream, tilapia and cod. And you can see some familiar companies there: Aquaculture for salmon, Regal Springs for tilapia, Philosophish for sea bass, yeah, we have some further work to do in Ontario and Canada, and get ready for these new farm salmonid codes of practice. But yeah, we're very, very pleased with the results that Cedar Crest has experienced in Ontario. And that's my presentation. Thank you, Sofika.
Thank you so much, Sam. As I've mentioned to you several times before when we've spoken, you're an absolute encyclopedia of knowledge, and I can just soak up your many years worth of experience in both the aquaculture sector and now the stunning sector to expand my own knowledge base. So thank you for sharing that. And it's quite clear through your presentation, and I think definitely this was also mentioned by René and Teresa, that it's a win-win-win scenario. When we put animal welfare first, we also immediately start seeing benefits for workers in the industry, for corporations, for consumers. So there's a lot of really strong selling points there. Thank you. Now on to our final panelist, Duncan. And Duncan, I definitely want to make sure that you have the opportunity to not be rushed in your session. So please take 15 or so minutes, and then we'll have a little bit of time for questions and answers. Over to you, Duncan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen.
I'm not seeing anything yet, Duncan, but your video with your image on it, there's 2 boxes with Duncan. but your video seems to be frozen for now.
Oh, let me set it up. There is a bit of slug in the network, but I'm working on it.
Thank you. And I'm wondering if, oh, I do see we do have your presentation, I believe, on file. So maybe someone from the team can share that more readily, and then Duncan can just speak.
All right.
Okay, if you just give us a second, Duncan, we should be able to get that up on the screen. Thank you for your patience. Apologies, we're still working on that on our end. Let's see here. Oh, perfect. Catalina beat me to it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And over to you, Duncan, if you can see that.
My screen is still hanging.
Okay, we see the first slide of your presentation here. Is it possible, maybe Duncan, we could try this tag team effort where you view your presentation on your own device, and we'll just advance the slides when you're ready for us to advance through the webinar? Do you think that might work?
Yes, that can work.
Okay.
What is this? It's starting.
Yes, we have it here on full screen.
All right. Thank you very much, team. I'm now able to see my presentation. My name is Duncan. I'm a consultant in fisheries and aquaculture in the agribusiness value chain. I want to talk about experiences and the strategies in implementing animal welfare policies, a case for aquaculture and the fisheries. The second slide, are you able to see it? Yes,
Yes,
the second slide.
yes, perfect.
Yes, the second slide, we can see that there is a dog over there, and this dog is having a wound. When we are talking about animal welfare, we look at all the animals within our disposal. And the perpetrator of this inhuman aggression against the dog is a person. Because by pouring boiled water on an innocent creature is inhuman. Though the dog could speak, but the harmless creature has no speech. Now, who will communicate on behalf of the dog, the donkey, the pig, the fish? They suffer globally in silence. It is you and I who are the ambassadors for change and advocates for animal welfare. What are some of the strategies in the third slide? If we can move to the third slide. Cultured fish live within an enclosed unit away from their natural feed. It is recommended to assimilate the enclosure conditions to the natural habitat from where the fish was removed. This will ensure that there is fish welfare. But how? One, we have to look at the enriched environment by ensuring that the environment under which the cultured fish assimilates to the original condition where it was removed from the wild. The environment entails so many things, which will involve the structure that is being used, the space, that is requirements for the fish, especially looking at the stocking densities. We need to have information on every species of fish. What is the space requirement? So that we don't overstock the fish to an extent that we infringe on their welfare, especially in terms of overcrowding. We also look at the feed composition and the feeding regime. The fish that are being cultured, they need to be fed, and the feed composition is very important. It is very necessary that the food should have a complete diet that is having all the required nutrients, depending on each and every species of feed, and also considering the feeding regimes, how frequent the fish are supposed to be fed, depending on their ages, and also on the expectations of each fish. In other circumstances, fish you find that are left without being fed, so they suffer, and we infringe on their welfare in terms of the quantity and the quality of the feeds which they are being given. Also, the same environment, we look at the water quality. We know that there are water quality parameters which are commensurate or the optimum levels of the water quality parameters, like maybe the water pH, the dissolved oxygen levels, the suspended solids, ammonium levels. We can list the water quality parameters. Every species of fish have an optimum level within which they operate. So as this one is being undertaken, it is very necessary that we follow the criteria on the water quality parameters so that we also don't infringe on the fish welfare based on the water quality. The issue that has been coming out is the stunning and the inhuman slaughter of the fish. This has been a challenge because you find that when I look at the area from where I come from, I'm coming from Kenya, and Kenya is endowed with some of the best natural resources for growing of fish and also for harvesting from the wild. Lake Victoria being one of the large freshwater lakes, where we have 3 main species of fish of economic value. We have Nile perch, which is the latest Niloticus. We have tilapia, a number of tilapian species. The one that is being grown is the Nile tilapia, the Rheochromis niloticus. We also have catfish, which is Clarias garepinus, and also the sardines of Mena, which is also one of the major species in Lake Victoria. So you find that the way Nile perch is being handled, starting from the way it is being harvested, they use long line with hooks and with live baits. And the long line with the live baits, the bait is maybe a young one of Clarias garepinus, which are being used as baits. Because when trolling was stopped, they embraced the use of long line with hooks so that there is selective harvesting of Nile tilapia, of Nile perch. But now, the fish that is being used as a bait, the welfare on that fish is being infringed upon. So there is need for coming up with the better technologies to help in harvesting of the Nile perch. And also, for both Nile perch and tilapia, looking at the process of stunning, you find that the sophisticated methods or the modern methods are not available. And fish sometimes are left to die by struggling, or they are stuck in ice immediately after being removed from water, which has also been mentioned. It is a gap that needs to be addressed. Looking at the 5th slide, let's move to the 5th slide. What are some of the experiences that we have had when working with various communities? One is educating producers on best management practices to ensure that the environment under which fish is grown meets the requirements for that particular species of fish. Secondly, is participating in the development of policy documents. Like I had participated in the development of fish feed standards and also the fish seed standards. This one has ensured that the unsurplus dealers are screened out from the sector so that we have certified producers of fish feeds that meets the requirements of species of fish, and also we have certified hatcheries to be engaged in the production of fingerlings. Also, we developed fact sheets which were cascaded to fish farmers on various fish husbandry practices, cutting across the water quality management, fish health, the optimum stocking densities, the feeding frequencies, and the feeding regimes, taking into account the feed quality and the daily rations and the predator controls. So, because aquaculture is a developing sector in Kenya, we found that there has been gaps in terms of information, gaps in terms of knowledge, and there are interested parties who are interested in engaging into the fish farming. So it is necessary that all this kind of information is developed and cascaded down to the fisher folk so that they are able to embrace. Slide 6. We find that aquatic animals provide more than 3 billion people with almost 20% of their average per capita intake of animal protein, thereby contributing to food security. So it is an opportunity that the aquatic animals can be used as food and also for various economies, because it is a sector that I must say that it has not been tapped to the fullest. But again, there is also room for research so that new technologies, new methods can be identified on how to go about the business of engaging in the underwater business. Again, there is also opportunities for partnerships and collaborations, because we find that the sector, like in this region, it has we have a lot of resources, but many people still lack the capacity to engage fully into the production. So if we can get partnerships and collaborations, then we shall be able to use the sector adequately so that it can contribute to the food production and also produce for the income. So there globally, there is an existence of a natural underutilized aquatic ecosystem. And this calls for the formation of strong fish welfare groups for advocacy purposes, for whistleblowing, which can be very important, especially when negative actions are spotted. So some of these strong welfare groups are still lacking. We don't have them. So it is a gap that need to be addressed. Those are some of the aquatic animals. That one was adopted courtesy of loveenglish.org, the pictures for the aquatic animals. The next slide. There are also challenges. Where there are opportunities, there are also challenges. And one of the most critical challenges is mishandling of fish at harvest and at sampling periods, leading to quail death. Majority of fish undergo difficult deaths struggling with rigor mortis. Others are being stuck into ice. And many producers are oblivious of better ways to kill the fish. Some of them think it is just normal for a fish to die struggling. And then there are also limited support and resources to champion fish welfare as a thematic area of importance. So it is important that the masses are educated on the importance of humane way of killing fish, the use of the stunning equipment, which are still lacking. Most of the smaller groups don't have them, they don't access them. Even some of the companies which are also engaging in production of fish, they still don't practice the use of better ways of human handling, especially during harvesting of fish. But this also again calls for even handling of fish even at other levels, even in the hatcheries during different development stages of growth. For instance, like catfish, catfish, the process that is used to produce catfish fingerlings, you find that maybe the male one is killed. So they use blunt object to hit on the back of the head to stun the fish so that they can remove the pituitary gland and also to remove the gonads during the hypophysis process. But still, the processes that are being used are a bit rudimentary, and there is need to improve on modern technology in terms of fish handling. The next slide. What are some of the possible solutions to these challenges? Starting with the capture fishery, it is important to educate the communities on the importance of sustainable utilization of natural resources and the conservation of species. Because there are certain methods which were being used that could clear everything, which can render a particular habitat redundant or extinction of species. So it is important that the masses are educated on the importance of conservation for future species, so that we don't lose some of the important fish species. The second one is provision of alternative selective capture systems to discourage unregulated use of illegal gears. In most cases, we found that the natural fisheries it is a free access system. So anyone can go, but there are regulations that need to be put in place so that the use of illegal gears are stopped and selective gears are used. And as much as we also use the selective gears, especially when harvesting fish where baits are used, like I said, for the case of Nile perch, then we also need to look at the fish welfare. Using another fish to catch another fish as a bait or putting it on a hook is inhumane. So it is important that alternative ways should be developed to catch a Nile perch rather than using other fish for catching Nile perch. Some of the fishermen, when they don't get the baits, they go to the breeding grounds and they do seining. As they seine, they destroy the breeding grounds and also they interfere with the future generations. So fish welfare as a topic is very key and need to be cascaded to the rest of the world so that better practices are taken into consideration. Also, prioritization of fish welfare as an important area for consideration by various administrative units globally. Fish welfare has not been given a lot of emphasis. And in most cases, you'll find that even it lacks adequate funding to facilitate the process. But it is high time that various administrative units consider fish welfare as a very important thematic area for consideration. Then when we come now to culture fisheries, that is aquaculture, it is also important to educate the producers or the farmers on best management practices and the fish handling practices at all stages. All this requires sacrifice of time and resources. It requires engagement of various actors within the fisheries sector so that the best management practices and fish handling is taken into consideration. also encourage the adoption of welfare-friendly stunning and slaughtering equipment, even in the aquaculture farms, because currently they don't have. They harvest the fish, they stuck in the ice, they harvest the fish, they leave them to struggle dying. So the aspect of the stunning and the use of modern technology is supposed to be included even in the regulations and in the policies, especially for the farms which are putting up around the globe to ensure that fish is handled and they die a human death. And also, it is also important to develop platforms like the seafood map, where information can be cascaded easily to reach a larger audience. By use of technology, there will be lesser barriers to communication. So if we can have those kind of platforms, then information will be cascaded easily and can reach larger audience, and we can use such platforms to advocate for the fish welfare. Then continuous research and farmer engagement is also key.
Duncan,
the next slide.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. It's Sofika. I'm sorry to interrupt. If possible, would you be able to shortly wrap up the session? I think you only have one or so slides left. I just want to make sure that our panelists are able to stay with us for a quick question and answer period.
Okay, thank you. I'm just wrapping up. The slide over there, the next slide is just a picture, a caption of a group of farmers who are adapting the proper ways of handling of fish. Those are juveniles of Nile tilapia. They are going to stock in their cages. So the fish was packed very well in this oxygen and in bags. So that is a show that we are trying to adopt the process of human handling of fish, so that we encourage them to explore the fish welfare. Otherwise, my last slide, I'm just saying thank you for listening, and also my contacts are there in case we can move on for further discussions and collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Duncan, and thank you for your perseverance to work with us to get those slides up in front of our audience. That's great. And I also just wanted to emphasize what you said, that aquaculture is a growing industry globally. So having people on the ground like yourself in the communities where these activities are occurring and encouraging and supporting them to immediately introduce aquatic animal welfare, that's the way that that's sort of the hopeful path forward. So thank you so much for your work. And thanks to those that have managed to hang on with us. I still see that we have just about 50 participants, which is really lovely. I know it's getting quite late for some of our audience and certainly for some of our panelists. So thank you for holding on. Maybe just one question each, if that's okay, and then we'll wrap up the session and reconvene tomorrow. The first one is for René. And René, what is the biggest motivating factor to starting an animal welfare program, introducing the policy? How do we encourage others to do the same as well? So the biggest motivating factor.
Well, I can only speak for myself and our team. I think it's us, and the way how we perceive working with animals, right? So I think if we kill animals to eat, before we turn vegetarian, everyone, I want to make sure that we do our best, that if we eat animals, that we also do a proper job in making sure we can optimize the life of these animals, you know. So that's more like a personal motivation. It's, in our case, not really kind of market driven, in the sense that retailers are now jumping on board. But as I said, we have always been looking at this more holistically, and I believe that's a way a lot of people are looking at it. You know, if you reflect yourself, you know, we believe in the future of real seafood. We are not into plant-based seafood, and also not into reactor cell cultured seafood. So we need to make sure that the real seafood stays real, but, you know, under really optimized conditions. That's our motivation.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks, René. One for Teresa. Could you please elaborate the importance of plant-based alternatives versus animal-based products? The assumption is that the plant-based category has grown significantly in previous years. What are your expectations or predictions for future growth in this category, and potentially specific to aquatic animal products?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a specialist on a plant-based diet, but what I see is it's definitely coming stronger, particularly because of the carbon footprint resonates very good with normal consumers. Animal welfare is a lot harder to you know, kind of put into context. And as we can see here, you know, we talk about a variety of species that we don't really know yet how good, or the actions that we need to take. There's a lot of trialing going on at the moment. I do think that there is going to be space, or an additional space, to plant-based diet. But you know, my experience is like we're working with our suppliers in each agricultural side of thing, aquaculture or of wild capture, to make sure that we are taking those supply chain forward, and they're definitely not going to disappear. We just need to make sure that they continue to be in the right path for a variety of things: animal welfare, environmental sustainability, and also ethics. So it is coming to the retailers, but I think that there is a lot more to do in my current line of work.
Thank you for that, Teresa. Thank you. One for Sam. It seems like the EU and Canada are doing more with electrical stunning. Have you heard of any efforts that are underway in the US? And do you anticipate that this will become mandatory worldwide at some point in time? I suppose stunning prior to slaughter.
Yeah, there are new developments in Canada, such as what I mentioned, and others to follow. There's also interest amongst producers in the US. Do have a system that's operating in the Alaska hatchery and wild capture fisheries. So that's encouraging. That the technology, you know, can be used in the traditional capture fisheries, and as far as adoption on a worldwide basis, you know, I see that through Ace Aquatec's portfolio of companies already happening, and certification bodies are paying a lot more attention to humane slaughtering practices. So, you know, I think wherever there's less stress and less pain on the aquatic animals, the sustainability improves, and the certification bodies are paying attention to that.
Okay, and time will tell if this becomes sort of ubiquitous across the globe. in the meantime, I think none of our efforts should slow down. We need to ramp them up to, again, get the attention of policymakers and make this a priority item. For Duncan, maybe the last question today. I would love to continue this conversation, but time is ticking. I'm sorry. So for Duncan, how can advocates support animal welfare education and advocacy in Kenya? And is there perhaps one major obstacle that you're running into that seems a little insurmountable at present?
What I can say is that most of the actors are oblivious of the importance of fish welfare. Maybe they don't understand. Some of the fisher folk just think that it is just normal for fish to die a struggling death. But it is important that they are informed so that we can have such platforms like we have the ethical seafoods working with the Samaki Hub. We deal in fish welfare. So if we can have a number of such organizations that can empower farmers and use of various producer groups, like the communities that we work with, and creating various platforms, working together with the government and other actors, then once people will get information and they will adopt and consider that this is a real area that need to be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sadly, with that, I think we're going to wrap this session. So I wanted to again sincerely thank our panelists for your wonderful insights and time. Sincerely thank our audience members for joining and sticking with us. We anticipate to see many of you again tomorrow, so please do log back in. Just mentioning again our call to action that several individuals from our team will be attending COP28 this year in December, calling on global leaders to further the conversations and take actions on aquatic animal welfare. So anything that you can do to spread the word about this and re-promote our social media posts, that would be fantastic. And this is the end of our sessions for today. The next panel begins tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, Essential Tools and Resources. So we hope to see you again and wish you a wonderful rest of your days and evenings. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.